What's going on, Wolfpack? Your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves. Here with a new edition of a Monday show. Now that we're doing the Sunday night tailgate, we're going to focus specifically on Mondays on the waiver wire, FAAB money, anything of that nature, and then also the injury recap, which often informs our waiver wire. So it makes sense to get those two things in sync, in line. We're going to try to hit about 30 minutes right before Monday Night Football kickoff to get you warmed up, get you ready for the game. An interesting Bills game, and those of you tuned in probably know at this point, Higbee is out. I might stash Gerald Everett just for the hell of it, see what he does, see if he makes good on this opportunity and can kind of carve out a bigger role in this offense. I mean, he was the tight end 5 for a nice stretch last year, so intriguing to see what he does. I've seen Cam Akers dropped a lot, and kind of deservedly so at this fucking point, but ultimately he could be another interesting stash. Let's see if anything ever happened to Henderson. He comes up gingerly. So if you have trash such as Jerick motherfucking McKinnon to cut, pick up one of these guys, see what they do on Monday Night Football, get yourself a little action for tonight. But let's dive in now to the waiver wire, to the FAAB money. Get your questions on, and if you have any last minute sit starts, I will make sure to hit them. But let's talk waiver dollars. Carlos Hyde, by far my number one pick on this week's waiver wire. We've seen it for long stretches this year, such as Mike Davis becoming a complete and utter monster these last few weeks. Carlos Hyde could be the next one because Chris Carson is week to week with a mid-foot sprain. It's not supposed to be anything season-ending or crazy, but the team will probably take it nice and cautious with him. And Carlos Hyde was the absolute bell cow when Chris Carson departed, racking up 15 carries, 68 yards, 3 catches, another 8 yards, 17 total PPR fantasy points, along with plowing into the end zone. Travis Homer also got banged up this game. So literally, you're looking at the Carlos Hyde show next week. The matchup's not tasty against San Fran, but then you get a juicy Buffalo, a Rams team that hasn't really stopped the run all too well, and then another Arizona matchup, which you just put 17 points up against them. So you could be looking at a nice 4-week gap of Carlos Hyde just eating. So I'm a big fan of adding him. I think he could be the play this week at waiver wire. You're guaranteed the touches at least this week. And if you're desperate for running back help, I'd say spend about 20%, 25% of your FAAB to go get this guy. 10% owned right now across most leagues. The next guy on the list, though, more seasonal value, season-long value to this guy. And real quick, too, if you're tuned in and you don't mind giving us a thumbs up, if you haven't hit that subscribe button and you like what you hear, would mean the world to have more subscriptions, more likes, get us discovered by more people. But thank you guys so much for tuning in wherever you are at. Now let's talk here about Brandon Aiyuk, 34% owned. To me, the ideal Week 8 streamer with plenty of rest of season juice, as we were saying, because one, Deebo's hurt. 2, the matchup's coming against Seattle in Week 8. That's given up by far the most points to wide receivers, and that just only boosted last night with that track meet of a game. So I love Brandon Aiyuk this week. And then just rest of season-wise, everybody's saying, oh, it's just Deebo Samuel, same exact role. Well, yes, he's so good at the catch. He's a beast. Leaping ability, we all saw that touchdown, can be very dangerous in that sense. He gets plenty of touches as a rusher. Love his just overall fit in Kyle Shanahan's scheme because of all that. But then this guy also averaged, he took down 100 air yards this week, so he can get deep. That was -10 for Deebo Samuel. Yeah, they had similar touches, similar outputs by the end of the game, but this guy was going deep, streaking down the field. He's used just a little bit differently in that vertical sense, in addition to the run after the catch generation, the rushes, all that good stuff. So Brandon Aiyuk, that was his calling card coming out of college, led the nation in yards after contact. We've seen it translate at the professional level. Now he's probably destined for his biggest day yet. And this is coming off a 115 career high day. I think he hits that right again and smashes this week. So if I'm needy at wide receiver, he's absolutely the first one I look at, but not far behind him. Another guy I would spend about an Aiyuk 20% or so budget. I think Sterling Shepard's right about there with him. Returns from injury, looks as smooth as if he never left, and slid right into the top role for Daniel Jones. Yes, Slayton was playing banged up, but it was not even a competition between Tate versus Shepard. It was all Shepard. Ends up hauling in 6 of his 8 targets for 59 yards and a score. And again, just looking explosive, speedy, all the things you wanted to see with him coming off the injury. Wasn't like they rushed him back and he was looking gimpy. This man played well. It's a hideous offense, but the schedule does start to soften up. They faced a murderer's row early on. Now you get Tampa Bay, a tough game. Washington, they're rated tough, but come on, this is Washington. They've got nobody. I don't buy that they're great. They need to get just pure green the rest of the season with this guy. So he's more Shepard, a longer-term stash. You got Philly, then Cincy, Seattle, as we mentioned, the best possible matchup for wide receivers. Arizona, nothing too special. Then you got Cleveland, the third most points. Baltimore in Week 16, tricky matchup, but he could be the Sterling Shepard, a big piece to why you get there. So between Aiyuk, my number one, just more upside, more just raw ceiling, but Shepard, more floor, more provenness, and a better stretch run schedule. So I really like him. And dare I fucking recommend Nelson Agholor? 2% owned if either of those other two guys weren't out there. Certainly less owned than them. He's been the Raiders' number one lately that nobody seems to want to accept. The guy has 3 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks, and last week was by far his best game. Saw 9 targets. That's a high on the season. Turns it into 5 catches for 107 yards. 4th career 100-yard game for the guy. But that rapport with Carr is really coming into play here. And we're seeing Carr say, we can't get this guy off the field. He's been playing too well for us. He led the Raiders in wide receiver snaps this week, playing 51 compared to 48 for Ruggs. So both were pretty much every down guys, but that just tells you this is not just a gadget gizmo style player. He's getting his shit done, Nelson Agholor. He had a couple of his trademark drops. I know the people in Philadelphia probably celebrating that, but still, before this game, he had caught 10 of 11 targets, had been a very reliable guy for Derek Carr. And this week, again, they went to him more than they have all year, and all he did was respond. So I really like Nelson Agholor at 2% owned to be an intriguing streamer. The schedule, not too bad. They're already done with their bye week. Let's tell you real quick some of the games you have for this guy with Nelson Agholor coming up. Where's that? I just have it. Here he is. Nelson Agholor. So you get Cleveland coming up this week, the 3rd most points to wide receivers. We just saw Joe Burrow go completely nuclear against them. The Chargers coming up after that. Banged up secondary. Teams have been routinely bombing them. Denver coming up after that. So much more susceptible to the pass than the run. The worst in terms of points allowed to running backs. They just stifle running backs the entire day. But then you got them very susceptible through the air. Kansas City, they're going to need to put up their points. And then Atlanta in week 12, Jets after that. I mean, it is a juicy schedule for a guy that's only trending upwards. 14, 15, and 22 fantasy points. The wide receiver 27, 26, and 13 over these last 3 weeks. The guy's just getting it done. Definitely deserves some attention. Another, very under-owned guy that's probably out there in your leagues. That's Rashard Higgins, 1% owned. He's thriving in Odell's absence on this week. Ultimately puts up over 100 yards and a score. That offense just seemed to click so much better without Odell in there for whatever reason, the explosive talent, but maybe he's just a diva commanding too much of Baker's attention, getting in his headset. It was ultimately a much better show there without him in there. I don't know why that's the case, but it was. So a big day for Higgins. He gets the Raiders next week. Certainly nothing scary. Bye week. But then you look at the schedule. We were talking about easy schedules. This guy has the easiest of all wide receivers. Cleveland does in general, facing Houston, green matchup. Philly, green matchup. Jacksonville, green matchup. Tennessee, green matchup. It's all green until week 14 when he faces Baltimore. So you're looking at some great stuff. Then the Giants and Jets weeks 15 and 16. I'm not saying that this guy Higgins is going to become a fixture into your run, but maybe, just maybe. I mean, anytime he's gotten the opportunity, I feel like Higgins always comes through. And then you got to look also at tight end. Harrison Bryant, a freak coming out of college. The most production we've seen out of a tight end in quite some time for college. 2,139 yards, 207 targets, 148 receptions, 2.59 yards per route one. Ultimately, a guy I love, Scott Barrett. He was all in on Harrison Bryant. His model really tends to outline breakouts quite well. And I love everything we saw, the body control in the red zone. Like Mayfield was just zipping it, and this dude was coming down with diving catches all over the place. Yeah, you get Hooper coming back after this week. We got one more week of Bryant, but very streamable week against the Raiders. Maybe he carves out a clear-cut number 2 tight end role, especially again with Odell out. They already ran so many 2 tight end sets. They're going to need some receiving volume to be carried. And I can't imagine Higgins just automatically shoulders it all. So that is another guy I would look at. Now, let me quickly hit any questions you guys have. If you have anything for tonight. JaMycal Hasty season. We're going to talk about him in a second. What's going on, Diego De Leon? Great to see you. Hello, Tien. Thanks so much for you guys tuning in always. Looks like I'm going to win as long as Chicago defense doesn't score negative 5.9. Yeah, DK saved you there. Kyle Tunes. Dequilin missed 1 and 2. Well, there's always a replay. But my number 1 was Carlos Hyde, and my number 2 was Brandon Aiyuk. So you can always catch my reasoning later. I picked up Shepard last week and had Aiyuk in need of running back help. Thoughts on Hasty if Coleman doesn't come back that week? Well, let us transition. Let me answer this. I need Cup to outscore Woods tonight. Denny Jennings, don't like your chances, but ultimately could be it. Hasty or Hyde for the FAAB surge here. I personally prefer Hyde. You're looking at more weeks absence, safer volume because Coleman could come back. And let's talk about now these 49ers running backs. All right, we are back with the audio. Sorry about that, friends. Just knocked the mic out there. But let me know if you can't hear me. By all means, want to make sure I get that. But my fault. Let's talk about these 49ers running backs. Tevin Coleman has an outside chance at returning in week 8. Even if he does, you got to imagine he's easing a little slowly. But then again, you never fucking know what's going to happen with Shenanigans every single fucking week. To me, it's going to be the JaMycal Hasty show. I'll tell you who it's not going to be. Piece of fucking dirt. Jerick McKinnon, god-awful performance, literally negative fantasy points. I mean, I started A.J. Dillon over him and was like, fuck, I made the wrong call. He like tripled up his production. Didn't get negative points at least. Awful stuff. It's clear they're easing him. His ribs injury is part of the plan, whatever stupid shit Kyle Shanahan said at the end of the game. Go fuck himself. Awful stuff. But JaMycal Hasty continues to make the most of his opportunities. And we saw why this offense is annoying as it is, as frustrating as it can be. That zone blocking scheme is unbelievable. I mean, Jeff Wilson was looking like an all-pro back, ripping up 120 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. I mean, it was unstoppable till he suffered that high ankle injury. And then JaMycal came in and ripped chunk play after chunk play. So as much as I want to hate Kyle Shanahan for never giving us a consistent guy, one that we can depend on each and every week, I also love the dude because that blocking scheme is poetry in motion. It's a gorgeous thing to watch unfold, and running backs just eat up chunk plays. So as a 1-week potential option, JaMycal Hasty out there in 90% of leagues. I do think Tevin Coleman's going to sit it out, and it's just going to be a 15-20 carry show for Hasty. So for 1 week stopgap, if you miss out on Hyde or you don't have the money to go bid up, I really think you can get a nice, useful week out of JaMycal Hasty, facing a Seahawks team that they're really going to want to try to ground and control. I could see a lot of volume coming for Hasty as a desperation running back fill-in. Certainly makes a lot of sense. I also do like Corey Davis. I can't believe those words have come out of my mouth, given how much hate I have given this motherfucker. But ultimately, he legit has not had a single bad game yet in 2020. This is like the late blooming coming out party for Corey Davis. 13 points, 11 points, 9.4, 2 missed games because of COVID, but then right back where he left off, 12 points, 10 targets, 6 catches, a touchdown. The dude just gets it done, and that was against Pittsburgh. Now you get Cincy, Chicago, tough matchup, Indy, tough matchup, Baltimore. So, I mean, the schedule isn't that tasty for the guy. But then down the stretch, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Detroit, Green Bay, all potential bomb shows for Corey Davis. And really, the matchup just doesn't seem to matter for this offense. Tannehill keeps him rolling. Arthur Smith calls a great game. I like Corey Davis. If you miss out on some of those earlier guys, Aiyuk, Sterling Shepard, and he's still sitting out there, could bring some value. Now, last running back on my list of guys I really wanted to highlight, JaMycal Perine, 16% owned, dominated the snap count this week. Yeah, of course, as soon as he thrives, it seems like they put in Gore to just make sure he cools off, which was goddamn frustrating, no doubt about it. But still, Perine had himself a solid day, 40 snaps compared to only 16 for Frank Gore. Finds the end zone on a nice run, good little scamper, nice burst on it. 39 total yards, 3rd in targets on the Jets this week. So a very promising usage game here. And what do they have to lose from riding this guy? Do you really need to see what Frank Gore is made of? Just 2 weeks ago, Adam Gase came out and said, we're going to give Hasty a bunch of, Perine, Hasty's on the mind, big and hasty. We're going to give Perine quite a bit of work, though. What's the point of riding Gore? I mean, essentially, Gase has said that. We can't ride Gore at this age. So he came out and said Perine could be that guy, and it looked like he is. I got 40-16 snap rate. That's a huge difference. It's almost 70% of the snaps right there. So I'm liking Perine, as bad as the Jets are. And again, you don't really want to trust too many people on the absolutely sickening Jets. But Perine is looking like an option that will at least see volume. He gets Kansas City coming up. Definitely a run funnel defense, much better against the pass there. So I like JaMycal Perine. Last 2 names I really want to make sure to get is stashing Jalen Reagor, 11% owned, and then your last call on Dallas Goedert, right around 40% owned, depending where you're at. Reagor was activated from the IR. He's got 21 windows now, to a 21-day window to be fully activated. You guys know how hyped I was on this guy coming into the year, was dominating every facet in camp, beating Darius Slay deep in contested situations, was like the alpha number 1. And we've seen rookie receivers just crushing it this year, and he was one of my favorite coming in. There's no reason he could not. I mean, the schedule 1 is a complete joke for Philly. Just recipe for smashing teams coming down the stretch here. But 2, he could just step up, Jalen Reagor, just like every single rookie receiver has so far, and be that dominant, like late season Odell Beckham type of breakout of his rookie year. At 11%, why not take the stab, right? Go out and get this guy, even if he doesn't play this week and they hold him through the bye, which is coming up the week after. I really think Reagor could come out huge down the stretch for owners. Love stashing him, and love stashing Dallas Goedert, who I also think could come on masterfully down the stretch. I have him ranked top 10 for rest of season tight ends with Ertz banged up, going to miss the next 5 weeks. That's going to give Goedert a really great chance to continue honing that rapport, building it up with Carson Wentz. They already have such a strong one in the red zone down the seams. Great blocker, too. Like just in every down in there, and does all of it well, Dallas Goedert. I'm stoked to see him get back on the field. I'm going to be throwing some serious FAAB money at him if I'm desperate at tight end, and most of us are these days. He's probably going to be held out through the bye, but I expect him back after that week 9 bye. And you have some Bridgewater stopgap options to get to him for that bye. Some of them being Irv Smith, Trey Burton, or on the same team, Richard Rodgers, 6% owned, had a 16-point PPR day. Looking great, looking fantastic, Richard Rodgers. That's how much this offense, that's why I'm so high on Goedert. The Eagles just pepper them. But Trey Burton, also Frank Reich, coming from the Eagles scheme, loves to pepper his tight ends, was used in carries, used out of the backfield. I mean, such creative usage. Yeah, Mo Alley Cox was out for his blow-up, but a lot of people kind of ignored it with the Colts on bye. I think Burton's usage, he has that history with Reich of making some big plays. We could see it continue to grow. Irv Smith as well, coming off 2 solid double-point PPR days in a row. Kyle Rudolph rumored to be on the trade block. If that happens, Irv Smith would leap into your top 10 rest of season tight ends. Very athletic, doing some nice things out there whenever he gets the chances. So 3 intriguing tight ends under 15% owned right there. Wayne Gallman at running back. We have an injury for Freeman. Looks like it's going to keep him out at least 1 week. Not a great spot for Gallman as a 1-week stream, but he ran so hard when he got in and really just made some nice plays in total. Tampa Bay again on the docket. Not a great matchup for any running backs, but still, again, at this point of the season, with bye weeks upon us, with injuries running rampant, there's really bare bones out there for what you can do. And then at wide receiver, Preston Williams dropped because of the bye week a lot, but now Tua coming in. Who knows if that ends up helping him out, but Tua throws such a great over-the-shoulder ball, deep ball. I mean, does it all. And we're seeing Burrow and Herbert be gods on the fantasy field and real-life field. Who says Tua doesn't come in and make such a splash as well? But Greg Ward facing the Dallas Cowboys this week before the bye. Unlikely that Reagor gets activated, so you're probably getting another week of the Fulgham show, and then of Greg Ward finding the end zone, just smooth, a nice streamer this week if you are desperate at wide receivers. That wraps up our waiver wire. Just a couple more injury notes to get through, and then any other last-minute comments you guys have. We mentioned at the top with Higgins, but Odell Beckham is done for 2020, torn ACL. Thoughts out to him, prayers out to him. That sucks. Ultimately, I'm not like super invested in everybody coming in after him. Landry should vault up to number 1 on the target totem pole, but this is such a run-heavy attack. Higgins looked so good. Like I don't think Landry suddenly explodes up my rest of season big board because of the injury. Maybe jumps about 15 spots or so. Higgins gets a little bit of love too, but not in love with this offense and the passing game weapons, given how run-heavy it is. Given Harrison Bryant maybe shoulders a bit of that in the 2 tight end looks with Austin Hooper. And maybe Austin Hooper ends up being a sneaky riser. He had seen his targets climbing each week until that appendicitis. It's just tough for Odell. Prayers up to him, and you wonder, is this his last season in Cleveland after pretty tumultuous time there? Let's hope for a speedy recovery from one of the best. It seems like he continues to have these injuries, sapping the truly, truly dominant explosive threat we were seeing with the Giants. Kenyon Drake, another guy week to week, similar to Chris Carson, ankle injury, a ligament tear in there. Dude was in tears while he got carted off, looked very, very significant. And now they're saying it's probably going to be a handful of weeks, maybe 4 to 6 or so. I imagine he lands on the short-term IR, and Chase Edmonds, baby, is the one that steps up. This offense just looks crisper, cleaner with a guy like Chase Edmonds spreading the field. Had 7 catches on 7 of his target, putting up 18.5 PPR points in fill-in duty, and that was in like half of a game fill-in duty. Drake didn't leave until the fourth quarter, where Edmonds really came in and started to thrive, and he just again looked as the more explosive threat every single time he's been in there. So I'm a big fan of Chase Edmonds. I own them both, and again, not celebrating an injury by any means, but for my fantasy purposes, it seems like Edmonds will just bring a little more stability to this offense, especially as a pass catcher used in that more creative way. Obviously, speedy recovery to Kenyon Drake. Hope he's feeling well by the end of it. But for fantasy purposes, this ends up being better for anyone who owned Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds. Last up, we got Andy Dalton concussed. Could this spark, God forbid, prayers for this one? Fitzmagic coming to Dallas. Dalton, before he got hurt, this offense is completely flaccid without Dak right now. Everything there is dying, slow, shriveling death. Freaking CeeDee Lamb, 1 carry, 0 for 5 on his targets. Cooper salvaged his day, 80 yards and 7 catches, but nobody else in the passing game had anything close to useful against a pretty bad Washington defense here. So I hope Fitzmagic gets there. A gunslinger, loves to air it out, fits well with Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy liking to sling. We saw Dak going deep as much as any quarterback in the league. I think Fitz could really spark it. Hopefully by the trade deadline next week, this is a move that happens. It would obviously, for Fitzmagic, feel so bad for him just getting benched the way he did. This could give him a little life. That division's still up for grabs, and Jerry Jones isn't just going to sit on his thumbs. So, yeah, I like Fitzmagic to potentially come back and take over. Dallas would be awesome because right now everyone is a humongous stock down, but buying low in those options might be the play if a quarterback change happens. And then last up, Deontay Johnson limped off. Expects it to only be an ankle bruise. Should be able to play through it. But just to get a little bit of a warning sign for a guy that dominates every time he's out there. 15 target. His new AB for Big Ben there. So smooth, so silky at making people miss after the catch. And so just crisp in the routes. The dude's a monster. It's clear he's the number 1. I was speculating it's going to be Claypool from here on out. Nope. Deontay Johnson came right back in. It emphatically showed he is the guy. It's just a matter of can he stay on the field. Expected to be okay. Should be out there moving forward for the 5-0 Steelers, and he should continue operating as their clear-cut number 1. Let's get to the rest of your questions here. Herbert and Lockett combined for 109 alone. God damn, Mitchell Chavez. That is impressive stuff. Very, very impressive outing there. Irv Smith Jr. or Trey Burton, the better tight end to grab from Mitch? I feel like Irv brings a little more upside in the chance that we see Kyle Rudolph get traded. But Burton has that great usage. I just am, you still got Doyle there. Mo Alley Cox will be back. It seems more like a 3-headed nightmare there. So I don't love it. Drop Drake. Don't have the IR spot for him in one league. It's risky. Who else is on the chopping block for you, Mike Clay? I'd like to know. Because we don't have a timetable yet. Now, if we find out that Drake won't be back till like week 14, okay, he can get sent packing. If this is going to be one of the week to weeks that's like 6 weeks instead of 3 to 4 weeks, then yeah. Even then, it's getting close, especially if you don't have the depth on the bench. But if there's anybody else you can cut, let me know. Who is your favorite low-key tight end play? Mateo asking me for week 8. Honestly, I have not looked at the week 8 matchups as well. I think some of these guys we brought up for the waiver wire, Trey Burton, Irv Smith, Harrison Bryant should get another week as the lone guy. I do know I really like Richard Rodgers. Had a big first game and now gets Dallas. Goddard's probably not going to be back. I mean, if Goddard's out there in your waiver wire, stash him. If he gets Dallas, he's going to be a top 5 tight end in my rankings. But if not, Richard Rodgers should land in my top 12 as a guy that's out there in pretty much every league at this point, Mateo. But I'll be here back tomorrow right around 5:30 with my ranking show to get you something more in-depth than that. But I haven't really looked enough at the matchups yet. Dalton thinks he's back playing in Cincinnati again. Seriously. Just dink, 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 awful stuff. Doesn't realize the weaponry he has to him. Sling it, Dalton. But that line is also giving him no time, so I don't want to just completely hate on Andy Dalton. All righty, folks. That's our rapid react waiver wire and injury trainers room recap before Sunday Night Football. Wanted to hit that for you. Appreciate those of you who tuned in and interacted. And if you have any questions for your waiver wire or for just in general, feel free to hit me up at RotoStreetWolf on Twitter. You can find our DMs. We try to get them all. It comes in fast and furious. I will also be live again tomorrow at 5:30 for your rankings show to make sure I hit them like Mike Clay asking, don't have anyone else to drop. Mixon, Taylor, Gibson, Rojo, Eckler taking up your IR. Yeah, you got the depth, so you don't really need it. I guess you can send him back, and it's scary, but it seems like it might be a 5 to 6 week injury. Thanks again, guys, so much for tuning in. I, of course, am the Wolf of Roto Street, where we breed and feed fantasy wolves. Until tomorrow at 5:30, best of luck, whatever you need tonight. I hope you get your wins. And those of you tuned in, thanks so much. We'll see you guys later.